presented by Resto Pros of the Midlands, SC. Stuart Lake joining us now alongside JC and Phil and myself, live from Founders Park. It is the 2024 opening day. Miami of Ohio Redbirds will be in town. Redbirds?
That sounds right.
I think.
You may have to check that
Yeah,
one.
I might need to check that. Statistician? Where's our statistician?
They're the Red Hawks. They used to be the Redskins.
Red Hawks.
They were one of those that changed. Absolutely, Illinois State's the Redbirds. I'm a Redbirds fan, man.
Yeah.
I have to be.
Stuart Lake today will be in the booth as Eli Jones will toe the rubber and throw the first pitches of the year for Carolina baseball. First, Coach, glad to see you back after 20 minutes. He popped in a little bit with Landon, if anybody missed that. Still a laundry list of guests to get to today, but you saw that video there. You'll be in there today, and Tommy will be in there too, but he just won't be calling the game, but he'll be in there kind of guiding you through it as your first time doing, color and analyst stuff and things like that with Derek. How you feeling?
Excited. I mean, beside all that we're going to talk about with Tommy, I mean, it's opening day.
Yeah.
And, last night, it just still gets you, whether I'm not coaching right now and in this role, I'm looking at scouting reports last night. Monty and I are texting on some stuff. So, I mean, you just get that feeling. And then, as Liz McMillan said, I don't know if you looked at the weather earlier in the week. It wasn't as great.
Yeah.
Then it improved. She said, I think Tommy must have went and talked to the big weather guy upstairs for us and got us a great weekend. But when that moment does roll around, Derek and I have already kind of talked about it. And I know it's going to even be more emotional for Derek. But I've told you this, and I've said it several times this week. I really never worked with Derek. So I was always, when I was kind of the fill-in, was with Tommy. So it's special to me to get this opportunity to be that guy to sit beside Derek this season to hopefully continue that storyteller type role that, Tommy did so great and Tom Price before him. And that's what our program's about. I mean, that's why I jumped in on you today with Landon. It is.
Yeah.
I know there's other programs around this country that are special, but to me, there's none more special.
No.
And the relationships and the stories that we all have and can share from being a fan or being a coach, a player, now get a chance to do this.
You couldn't have said it any better than that. I tell people that all the time that I don't know of a better fraternity than Carolina baseball. When you're in it, you got a bunch of dudes on your side that will always be on your. I mean, when we were putting this together, for instance, not one person was like, "Nah, I don't have time."
Yeah.
Smoke did it from the golf course. You mentioned, Coach Tanner is going to come up here today, and I know how Coach Tanner works. So you tell him a time, you better be ready for him at that time.
Yeah.
And then, but Coach Tanner is going to squeezing this in. You've got a job to do, and here you are. Monty's texting me going, well, I'm doing some things with BP, but I'm going to try to get up there in a few minutes. Everybody wants to stop what they're doing to accommodate. And this is, I'm just giving the example of like the now for me. Yeah. That's how everybody in this group of people works. And that's one of the things that made Tommy Moody so special was everybody felt like they were Tommy's friend.
Yeah.
And he'd do anything for you.
And, baseball people were always here early. Baseball's a game of hurry up and wait. So I would try to beat Tommy because I'm going to tell you on a noon game tomorrow, I'm probably here at 8 o'clock. Tommy was like, bag would already be in there. I was like, you left your bag. You didn't get here that early. But he was just such a baseball person. But I had a cool moment yesterday. I've got a poster that I'm going to be fan today and get signed because I've got Coach Raines coming, Coach Richardson's coming, and I'm going to get them to sign because I already had Coach Tanner. I had Coach Holbrook on it. It's a Gamecock picture, and I was telling, my real job is over in the Gamecock Club. So those young guys are sitting around yesterday and said, I made a statement that I will have 50-plus years of Gamecock baseball signed on here. And one of those guys looked at me and he said, is that right? And I said, yeah. He said, you're telling me there's only been like 4 coaches since 1970? Mm-hmm. He goes, this is Pittsburgh Steeler-like.
Yeah.
And he didn't realize it. He's a young man that moved here, does a great job over in the Gamecock Club, but he grew up a Tennessee fan. He said, I did not realize that Coach Richardson's assistant took over. And that's who Coach Raines was to all of us, you know, a great legendary coach too. Then Coach Tanner, and then Coach Holbrook, and now Coach Kingston. So it just tells you about this program.
And everything. I know you want to jump in here, JC. Everything's so connected. Like every year, you see Coach Richardson here, and Coach Raines, and Coach Tanner, and you know, we have Chad on our show every week. He's a contributor to our program, doing what he's doing down at the College of Charleston, but just talking about all kinds of things. Still dearly will always love the University of South Carolina.
Absolutely.
It gets in your blood and you can't get it out. I don't know if it takes years off your life or not. That might happen, but we sure do enjoy it.
Well, the great thing is Coach Richardson's 89, Coach Raines is 85. So hey, if we can get to them two ages, I'll be able to cash in a couple. They can have a couple extra years if I can get to be as healthy and as mentally strong. I have had honestly, Tommy would laugh at me because getting to talk to Coach Raines in the last couple of weeks as we started setting up today, to me as a kid from Prosperity, Coach Raines is that family from Whitmire. So we're from Newberry County. He's been a legend to me since day one.
Right.
And to just get the call or the other day, see his name pop up on my phone, you know, Coach June Raines, I'm like, hey, I gotta answer this.
It doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yeah. I had to tell my wife, hey, I'll call you back. It's Coach Raines calling. So it's one of those days that as I talked to Tommy's daughters the other day, I said, look, I know we're all going to cry today. We're all going to do it, but please today, let's smile and laugh more, because today's about saying thank you to them for what they gave us, which was their dad and what he's able to give back. So to see them out here today is going to be really special.
Go ahead, JC. You see what he's wearing.
Yeah. That's in honor of Major League.
Always classy.
Major League 2, man. It's it's opening day. That's our second opening day, so I feel like it's a sequel. And I got the Bob Euchre look going on here. I should have gone full tux. I'll do something different for next year.
We'll do that next year. We'll show up to the stadium in full tuxedo.
I'm not doing that.
I'm not.
I'm going to get with my guys at Gamecock Traditions, and they can suit me up if they want to, but I ain't doing that tuxedo stuff.
Yeah. Coach, you mentioned about the guy that grew up a Tennessee fan that mentioned the stability, and obviously Tennessee, they'll change coaches in a heartbeat up there. It doesn't matter in any sport, but you bring up a great point about the consistency, you know, and there've been a few bumps in the road probably in the past decade or so, but you know, in your experience in college athletics, following baseball specifically, it is a game of consistency, and the more consistent you are, I think the better you are. So speak to that in terms of what that means to a program that has championship aspirations, just like South Carolina, competitively, in terms of how that actually sort of helps you to be consistent through the years.
Yeah, well, I obviously can speak a lot about when I got in here in the late 90s. When you start looking, what I tell people this all the time, and any coach around here that'll kind of say to me, like, hey, what was Coach Tanner like as a coach? Because they all know him as an AD. He was extremely loyal, and there weren't a lot of us. When you think back from 1996 to 2012, I mean, it was started out Coach Tolman and Coach Myers. They were there pretty much the whole time. There was a guy, Trip Keister. I followed Trip, and Sammy Esposito followed Monty. Coach Calvey came in, and I'm trying to think. That's about it.
That's it.
You know, Brainerd Cooper, trainer the whole time.
Yeah.
Dr. Ronald Casper, he was the only guy that got to do what he did and be a psychologist and a coach and a mentor to all of us. Donnie Lindler, who this is Donnie's first year not being here. Donnie worked on the field, and Justin Scurry's taking over today. It's amazing, JC, how we just all knew each other. I mean, it is just family. They were at my wedding. Now we're going to be at kids' weddings. And, you know, Coach Tanner will text me to ask how my son's doing at Sumter. I'm texting Coach Tolman to check out his son's doing in spring training. And what that means, as we all know, is when you believe and you trust each other as a family, you really give it everything you got, because you know that guy's got your back. And that's what, when Coach Kingston asks me occasionally, he'll get me when I was coaching with him, or even now, like, what do you see? And I'm like, And I see a lot of it right now this year. Listening to Messina yesterday and Eli Jones going out. Just let that family. You don't have to say family at the end of the cheer. I always joke, my family's really close. We never come together and break hands and go family. You know your family.
You don't?
So, well, not anymore. Maybe we did early on. I don't know. But my point is, I want those guys in that dugout to know they got each other's back. And I think that's what they're developing. And that really gets developed as the year goes on, but it really in the weight room and everything else they've done. But that was what Coach was so great at, Coach Tanner, when he was here. And I say it every speech I give, he had an ability to make you happy for him when you won, and feel bad for him when you lost. It was never about you. And I don't know how he did it, and we all bought into it, but it was because we knew he had our back too.
Yeah, we were talking about you just a little while ago. Not to totally shift gears here, but you say I've got your back, and that's a lot of what this program is about. You just mentioned Coach Tanner. That's all he's about. You know, if you're on Coach Tanner's team, he's got your back. Period. The end.
Yep.
And that's one of the things I think that I'm really excited about for you being up in the booth. We mentioned this a little while ago. One of the things that that Tommy did so great up there was he had Carolina baseball's back. And that's not an easy thing to do, because as you well know in this industry, like that, yeah, you can be a little bit more of a homer when you're the play-by-play guy and the analyst, you know, in the radio booth for your team. But there is also still a level of professionalism that you've got to carry. At the same time, though, guys like Coach Lake and Tommy, guys who played the game, obviously you've coached for years as a head coach and an assistant coach. You know, Tommy had seen it from so many different angles. This game is not easy, and these kids go out there, and regardless of, you know, what fans think from time to time, well, that guy can't hit. Well, he can. It's called slump, and they happen, and they're going to happen. Everybody on this team's going to go into one this year. Petrie, Messina, you name it. They're all going to have them. The pitchers are going to have them. And I think it's really important to have a guy who understands that and has a microphone and is able to have their backs, because they don't hear that while they're playing, but there is a residual effect because everybody else hears it, and it allows it to be a softer landing for these guys when they're going through what they're going through. So I think that was one of the neat things when I knew that, you know, a little while back when you were going to get this job, I was like, man, Stu's going to have their backs, and Tommy always did.
Well, I appreciate that. And I've said this my whole career here as a coach, and now in this role, I was a fan first. So I think I've helped before, you know, especially with Coach Kingston when he got here and didn't understand our fan base. And I said, hey, they care.
Yeah.
That's why our fans are so hard on us as coaches or players. They really do care.
Right.
And I was a fan first, so I cared. There were times I was mad when I'd get back in there and then realize, hey, I got to pick the guys up. I don't need to. But as you say that, that's really, I did have somebody say, hey, what do you hope to do when you're on the radio? I hope to just be that guy that maybe brings a little bit of insight from years of coaching and playing. But I want to be what you just said, the one that we just talked to Landon Powell.
Yeah.
Now let's go back in Landon Powell's career. So he's leaving to come here in January. He was going to sign. It was a done deal till the commissioner of baseball stepped in and said, whoa, we can't have this. So we get him.
Mm-hmm.
Again, God's plan. We get him. And then he struggles. And we have this kid named Timmy Whitaker, who was just going to be Landon's backup his senior year, hit 22 home runs, and Landon becomes his backup as we go to that Stanford Regional. And Landon grew. He called every weekend. But he went, I remember his very first hit was finally he got one at the Citadel in the old Citadel tournament. Then he shows what kind of Gamecock he is. He comes back his senior year. And I use Landon's story a bunch in recruiting when guys felt like they had to sign as juniors. I'd go, well, Landon Powell didn't sign. Guys, he was one of those guys that came back as a senior, still got the money, still made it to the major leagues. And that's why the success he's having at North Greenville, it doesn't fool anybody that's been around him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just that kind. But that he had failure. I could tell you failure story about every guy here that's in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
I look out at the wall, Kip Baltnight. I got to coach him at Brooklyn Casey. I remember the phone call, and Kip always goes, "Oh, Coach Lake, you're going to tell this story." Coach Tanner called me, and he said, "Hey, your boy, I don't know where he's going to fit in," because I was an assistant Brooklyn Case. I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, he wants to pitch. He wants to play third. I don't know if he can hit. I don't know if he can pitch good enough." And I let Coach Tanner. I didn't know Coach enough at this point to really maybe what I'd say these days to him. I said, "Coach, all I can tell you is that dude is special.
Yeah.
He was special here, and I think he's going to be special there. Give him whatever it works out. He'll be fine." And as you remember, Kip's freshman year, someone goes down. He gets to start on an SEC weekend against Florida and goes like 8 2/3, and the legend's born and
carving everybody
and
up.
his numbers on the wall out there. But there's failure everywhere, so it is important. Maybe that could be my role because they got the perfect guy. Because y'all were picking on Bob Euchre, JC. I think Euchre and I may have similar stats, so maybe it takes a guy with about a 200 batting average to stress how hard this game is.
I don't know if Euchre will embrace the stewardship role that I think you're going to take on, Stu. But yeah.
Have you been working on your craft? Are you at night? Are you calling games into the mirror? Are you going to YouTube and watching old games and muting it and calling them? What's been your training?
Well, I've always been a Harry Carey fan, so it has allowed me to go back and look at a lot more of his stuff. Obviously, all of us Major League with Bob Euchre, but
so what you're saying is you're going to be drinking in the
Stuart Lake here at the ballpark. Hey, Ray, I'm over there.
Hey, Derek.
Coach Kingston's already challenged me to sing the 7th inning stretch, and I told him, "No way, I'm not doing it."
We'll give a shout out to
buddies.
Roma in Lake City. Happy birthday! Hey.
Now I may become the birthday guy. I have joked around, but no, all my buddies are. Y'all know I'm a wrestling guy, professional wrestling, not amateur, professional wrestling. So all of them all day have been sending me lines to say you can, and I'm like, stop texting. I'm not, especially today. There will be no making fun of anything, but who knows? Maybe something will come out that'll be fun. But I just look forward to being that guy, as you said, to maybe be the one to go, guys, this is really hard.
Yeah.
This is really hard. But I'm excited because I've come and watched about half at least or more of their scrimmages. I think probably in the last couple of years, this is the most pieces offensively.
Absolutely.
And I know the most left-handed hitters that they've had here in several years. So I think in looking at what they've announced, now they could change their pitching rotation, they told us, which I couldn't understand why you would announce it if you said we may change it. That's even more confusing. But they've got 3 righties going right now, so we should see a lot of those left-handed hitters early on in this series.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about this team coming up in just a little bit. I'm with you. It actually feels I'm a little bit like the mid-2000s for me personally. And what I mean by that, and I'll let you go on this, and then we got a little change here, Phil, by the way. Campbell is hung up in a meeting, so we're just going to plug Monty Lee in for Michael Campbell. How's that for a pinch hitter, huh?
Pretty good.
I remember when Monty hit, Duke can hit it a country mile, so he's going to be a hell of a
That's not a bad pinch hitter
guy here. So Monty will be on in about 3 minutes or so. But one of the things we're going to come back to is back then, every year seemingly you would go into the season and you had preseason All-Americans. You were in the top 25. Clemson was in the top 25 and had a preseason All-American or two. And you had a bunch of dudes who, when they, as you well know, when they stepped to the plate, how Coach Tanner would give his 7 hitting groups and make sure that there was at least somebody in all of them who could scare the daylights out of you by hitting it over the trees and over the railroad tracks and everything that existed over at the Sarge or wherever they played. This team's got a lot of that feel because they have all those things.
Yeah.
Now, if they perform that way, we'll have to see. But we're certainly going to talk about some of that today and what makes some of these guys stand out, and I'm excited to see them play.
Yeah, and I know Monty's ready to jump on. Everything's by design. Don't think that when this stadium was built, it was by accident that the visiting team gets to walk in from left field, dodge balls, see them hitting over their bus, Yeah, there was a little bit of planning put into that.
Coach Tanner's sneaky now. There wasn't one thing in here that he didn't think about before it happened.
Not one.
Coach, we'll see in a little bit. We're
Absolutely.
excited to talk a little bit more with
Yep.
you, and really excited to hear you today at
I am too.
3:45.
Thank you for having me. See you on a little bit.
Okay.